Hey everyone, welcome back to Extra Rise English Podcast, the show that helps you level up your English one real conversation at a time. I am Mia.
And I am Leo, so glad you are here.
I want to start today with a specific memory. A few years ago, I was in a team planning meeting. A senior colleague was presenting a product rollout timeline. 4 weeks, launch on schedule. I looked at the plan and I could see something. The user acceptance testing window had not been confirmed with the QA team yet. That meant the 4-week timeline was built on an assumption nobody had actually verified. I knew this. I sat there and I knew this. And when it came time for the team to respond, I nodded. I said something like, "Sounds good." The meeting ended. The project moved forward. 2 weeks after launch, a critical bug was discovered. Exactly the kind of bug that user acceptance testing is designed to catch. The rollback took 3 days. 3 days of customer-facing problems. And I had seen it coming. I said nothing. I said nothing because I did not know how to push back on a senior colleague's plan in English without looking like the person who slows things down. So I stayed quiet, and that room treated my silence as a yes.
And what happened in that room was not a failure of courage. It was a failure of tools. The instinct to push back was there. The phrases to do it well in English were not.
And today, we're giving you the phrases, 3 specific ones that let you disagree in English without losing face, without being rude, and without being so soft that the disagreement disappears. Let's get into it. Leo, I want to understand why this is so hard, because it's not just about not knowing the words. There's something else going on. Why do so many Southeast Asian professionals go quiet in English meetings when they actually disagree with something?
There's a very specific mechanism, and I want to name it directly. In many Southeast Asian professional cultures, Filipino, Indonesian, Vietnamese, Thai, the way disagreement works is not the same as in English-speaking workplaces. When someone more senior proposes something, the respectful response is to receive it. You don't immediately challenge it in front of the group. If you have concerns, you raise them later, privately, in a one-on-one or through a trusted colleague who can carry the message. You don't disrupt the room by openly questioning a proposal, especially from someone with authority. And that instinct to protect the room, to protect the other person from public challenge, that's not wrong. It's genuinely respectful.
So it's not that we don't have opinions. We have opinions. We just express them differently.
Exactly. But here's where it breaks down. In English-speaking meeting cultures, Australian companies, American companies, British companies, multinational video calls, silence reads as agreement. The meeting facilitator sees no objection. The minutes say the team is aligned. The decision is made. And your silence, which you offered as consideration, was logged as a yes.
Oh, so it's not that I didn't speak up. It's that I thought I did. I thought staying quiet meant I need more time to think about this. But the room heard, I agree.
That's exactly the gap. The same signal, silence, means 2 completely different things in 2 different professional cultures. In a Filipino or Indonesian team setting, silence after a proposal can mean I'm taking this seriously. In an English language boardroom, that same silence means no objection. And if you're working across that gap without knowing it exists, you cast a vote without meaning to. Every time.
And then the project moves forward on a decision you never actually agreed with. And sometimes the thing you saw coming is the thing that happens.
Right. And there's another layer. In Southeast Asian professional contexts, there are indirect signals that carry disagreement. A particular hesitation, a question that redirects, a look exchanged between colleagues. Those signals are readable to people inside that culture. But on an English language video call with people from Singapore, Australia, and the Philippines all on the same screen, those signals are invisible. Nobody's reading them. Nobody knows they were sent.
So the tools we use at home to signal, I'm not sure about this, don't exist in that room.
And the solution is not to abandon the values behind those tools. The instinct to preserve harmony, to respect authority, to not humiliate someone in front of their peers, those are good values. The solution is to find English phrases that carry those values, phrases that push back without attacking, phrases that offer a different view without saying you're wrong, because those phrases exist. And once you have them, you don't have to choose between speaking up and being respectful. You can do both at the same time.
Which is exactly what comes next. Let's go.
3 phrases. One that opens the door to disagreement without making the other person defensive before you've even made your point. One that turns your disagreement into a new proposal instead of a rejection of theirs. And one that uses a question to push back without ever claiming the other person is wrong. That last one, I wish I had that in the meeting 3 years ago. This is exactly the kind of phrase we bring you every single week. If you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe right now. Not for us, because the next time you're in a room with something important to say and no words for how to say it, you'll want to already be here.
Let's hear them.
Phrase 1. I see where you're coming from, and I want to offer a different angle. This is your bridge before pushback phrase. Before you disagree, you acknowledge. I see where you're coming from means you heard their idea and understood the reasoning behind it. That acknowledgement matters because of what it prevents. When people feel heard, they're significantly less likely to become defensive when you push back. You're not being slow or cautious. You're removing the obstacle that would have stopped your point from landing. The bridge clears the road before the message arrives.
Compare that to going straight in. I actually think that timeline is going to cause us problems. Even if you're completely right, that can feel like an attack. The other person has to defend before they can even hear what you're saying. With the bridge phrase, you've already separated your disagreement from a personal challenge. I see where you're coming from means I understand your reasoning. I want to offer a different angle means here's something the room might also want to consider, not you're wrong, not this plan is bad, a different angle, which is almost always something the team wants to hear. You can say, I see where you're coming from with the 4-week timeline, and I want to offer a different angle. The UAT window hasn't been confirmed yet, and that gap could affect the launch. Or, I see where you're coming from on the budget, and I want to offer a different angle. Skipping the research phase now creates a larger cost risk later. Or simply, I see where you're coming from. I want to offer a different angle before we lock this in. The phrase is the same across all 3 contexts. The context changes, the phrase doesn't. Say that phrase out loud right now. I see where you're coming from, and I want to offer a different angle.
Phrase 2. What if we looked at it this way instead? This is your reframe as proposal phrase, and it does something that most people don't think to do when they disagree. It turns your objection into an idea. Instead of that plan won't work, you're offering a different plan. The conversation moves from rejection to contribution, and that shift changes everything about how the disagreement lands.
Because nobody in that meeting wants to hear that their idea is bad, but everybody in that meeting wants to hear a better one.
Precisely. What if we looked at it this way instead invites the room to consider a different direction without formally voting against the one already on the table? It's not your plan is wrong, it's here's something worth looking at. The question form is deliberate, it's softer than a statement, and it opens a door rather than closing one. You're asking the room to think alongside you, not instructing them to change course. You can say, what if we looked at this from the customer side instead? If the feature goes live before the edge cases are tested, that's a trust problem we may not be able to recover quickly. Or simply, what if we built in a 2-day buffer? I think the risk of skipping it is higher than the cost of the extra time.
Every one of those sounds like you are adding to the conversation, not fighting it. Say that phrase out loud right now. What if we looked at it this way instead?
Phrase 3. I am not sure I'm fully on board yet. Can you help me understand specific part? This is your question as soft disagreement phrase, and it is the most nuanced of the 3.
because it uses a question to push back without ever asserting that the other person is wrong. You're not saying that is a bad idea. You're saying, I have a gap in my understanding and I need help filling it before I can agree. The disagreement is expressed as a request for information, not a challenge to the proposal.
And the person you are asking cannot easily argue against that. If they refuse to explain, they look unreasonable. If they explain and it's solid, maybe you were missing something, and that's fine. If they explain and the gap is still there, you now have the information to follow up.
The phrase, I'm not sure I'm fully on board yet, matters because it is honest without being aggressive. You're not hiding your hesitation. You're naming it clearly and without blame. Not fully on board yet is not the same as your idea is wrong. And can you help me understand signals collaboration rather than combat. You're asking to be brought along, not building a case against them. You can use it with a manager. I'm not sure I'm fully on board yet. Can you help me understand how this would work given what happened with the last rollout? In a team meeting, I'm not sure I'm fully on board yet. Can you help me understand what happens if the data we need is not available by that deadline? On a video call with someone senior from another country, I'm not sure I'm fully on board for our specific market. Can you help me understand how this worked in the other regions?
Hold on to that last example. It's going to come back in the drill. Say that phrase out loud right now. I'm not sure I'm fully on board yet. Can you help me understand?
3 phrases: a bridge before the pushback, a reframe into a proposal, and a question that is also a disagreement. Let's put all 3 into real situations. This is the drill.
Scenario 1. You're in a team meeting. A colleague at your level, a peer, not your manager, proposes a campaign launch plan. The content is good, but the social media component is scheduled for a week when 3 of your team members are on leave. If the campaign launches that week, there won't be enough people to manage the comment and message volume if it performs the way you're hoping it will. You want to flag the problem. You don't want to embarrass your colleague in front of the room. Say something.
I see where you're coming from with this plan, and I want to offer a different angle. The launch week overlaps with 3 team members being on leave, which means we may not have the capacity to handle the response volume if the campaign performs well. What if we looked at it this way instead? We push the launch by 1 week, or we build a coverage plan into the campaign brief right now, so the team is ready for it either way.
Say it out loud. I see where you're coming from with this plan, and I want to offer a different angle.
Notice what that response did not say. It did not say, this plan won't work. It did not say, you didn't think this through. It named the specific, practical issue, the leave schedule, and immediately followed it with 2 possible solutions. Push 1 week or build a coverage plan into the campaign brief right now, so the team is ready for it either way.
You flagged the problem and offered a direction in the same breath. Your colleague doesn't have to feel like her idea was rejected. She can feel like it just got more complete. And what if we looked at it this way instead, is doing something specific in that response? It's not just naming the problem, it's proposing a path. In a team meeting, problem plus direction lands very differently from problem alone. If you bring only the problem, the room has to stop and solve it, and that can feel like you dropped something in their laps. Problem plus direction says, I've already thought about this, and here's a way through.
Scenario 2. You're in a one-on-one with your manager. She's already announced to the wider team a new process, a written status report every Monday due by 9 in the morning. You think it's the wrong call. Your team moves fast and the report adds overhead at the exact moment when focus matters most. But she's already announced it publicly. You disagree. You're alone with her. Say something without sounding like you're challenging her authority.
I want to share something with you, and I want to be useful, not just raise a concern. I'm not sure I'm fully on board with the Monday morning timing. Can you help me understand the problem it's trying to solve? I want to see if there's a way to give you the visibility you need without it landing at the start of the week when the team is usually at their sharpest. I might be missing something about what you're trying to achieve with this.
Say it out loud. I'm not sure I'm fully on board. Can you help me understand the problem this is trying to solve?
That response did 3 things. First, it named its own intention before disagreeing. I want to be useful, not just raise a concern. That signals you're not complaining, you're trying to help. Second, it didn't challenge the decision directly. It asked about the problem the decision was designed to solve. If you understand the underlying goal, you can sometimes offer a different way to achieve it, and that's a much better conversation than arguing about the decision itself. And I might be missing something about what you're trying to achieve with this. That phrase is honest and disarming at the same time. It gives your manager room to explain without having to defend herself. And notice that nothing in that response says, I think this is a bad idea. It stays entirely in the space of questions and wanting to understand, which is exactly where you want to be when you're disagreeing upward. You're not trying to override her decision. You're asking to understand it well enough to contribute something useful to it. Scenario 3. This is the hardest one. You're on a multi-country video call. There are people from Singapore, Australia, and Japan on this call. A senior person from the Singapore office, someone you've never met in person, someone who is clearly several levels above you, proposes a new customer complaint protocol. On the call, it sounds reasonable, but it won't work in your local market. The protocol is email first. In your market, the majority of customers contact support through messaging apps. If your team adopts this as written, response times will go up and customer satisfaction will go down. You're the most junior person on this call. You still need to say something.
Thank you for walking us through this. I want to make sure I'm contributing something useful before we move forward. I'm not sure I'm fully on board for our specific market, and I want to be transparent with why. Can you help me understand how the protocol would work for customers who primarily reach us through messaging apps? In our market, that channel handles a significant share of incoming complaints, and I want to make sure we have thought through the response time implications before we commit.
Say it out loud. I'm not sure I'm fully on board for our specific market. Can you help me understand how the protocol would work for customers who primarily reach us through messaging apps?
3 things happened in that response. 1, it opened with acknowledgement. Thank you for walking us through this. Signals that you're engaged, not resistant. You're not walking into the call ready to argue. 2, it named a specific concern, the messaging app channel, the response time risk, not this won't work for us. That's too vague and too defensive. Instead, here's one specific thing I want us to think through together. And 3, before we commit is doing a lot of work in 3 words. You're not saying no, you're asking for a conversation before the decision is locked in. That's a much easier ask than trying to reverse a decision after it's already been made. And I want to be transparent with why. That phrase matters on a call like that. It signals that you're not protecting your market from the group. You're offering information the group needs to make a good decision. On a call with senior people from multiple countries, that framing is what earns you the right to be heard. You're not the most junior person trying to block a proposal. You're the local expert with knowledge that the room doesn't have. Name it that way, and the room will receive it that way.
Go back and say all 3 responses out loud. The team meeting, the one-on-one with your manager, the multi-country video call. Say them until those phases feel like your own words, because those 3 situations are not hypothetical. You'll be in all of them. Here's your one thing from today. Disagreeing politely in English is not about hiding the disagreement. It's about making the disagreement receivable. I see where you're coming from makes the room safe for what comes next. What if we looked at it this way instead, turns your objection into a contribution? And I'm not sure I'm fully on board yet names your hesitation honestly without turning it into a confrontation. The disagreement is still there. You said it. You just said it in a way the room could actually hear and use.
For those of you who have been staying quiet in English language meetings, not because you had nothing to say, but because you didn't know how to say it without disrupting the room or damaging a relationship, those instincts came from somewhere real. They come from cultures that understand what it costs when someone loses face in public. The phrases in this episode are built to carry those values into an English-speaking room. You don't have to choose between being respectful and being heard. And your assignment for this week? The next time you feel that instinct to go quiet in a meeting, try one phrase, just one. Start with, what if we looked at it this way instead? You don't need the whole argument ready. You just need the opening. Come to the comments and tell us what happened. We want to know.
And if today gave you words for something that's cost you in a real room, share this episode with one person who's also navigating English meetings at work. Not for us, for them.
And if you want more of this every single week, subscribe. We'll be here.
All right. Thank you so much for being here on Extra Rise English Podcast. And remember,
Because one serving of English is never enough.
see you in the next episode.